It's literally a carryable cube, but that unpacks when you get to where you're going. It comes with a desk as the base level. So you automatically have an outdoor office with set amount of shelving, depending on if you want a floor or not. Then you want to go camping one day and you have a glamping site with a kitchen or whatever you want. If you want to be a mobile barista, you just set up your mobile cafe and you're good to go. We hope to adapt and add tons of different ideas, like a living hydroponics wall to grow food in your house, make a yoga studio. Hopefully it could be anything. The beauty of it is that it's compact and movable. It's not like a lightweight backpacking thing, but it is durable, structural, and completely adaptable. It gave me a reminder of part of my life has always been traveling between locations. I've always had to, for whatever reason, between countries. And it's kind of nice to be settled and just be in the environment. The nice sunset outside and be having a conversation.
We'll probably get into a bit more of your travels in a little bit, but what is your routine for feeling grounded amongst travel?
I have a daily routine set that I do that takes about 3 hours every day, which I've done for 301 days in a row now, and off and on for a couple of years before that. And it's really helped me because no matter how I'm feeling when I wake up, I always get this positivity and this feeling of local awareness with my environment and with myself internally after I do it. And I can't miss it because I just know the impact it has. Even when I really don't want to do it, I do it every single day. So whenever I travel, I wake up and I do that routine and I'm like back in it with energy and feeling good and feeling present.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Seems like you've figured out a process that works for you. And do you ever explore like variations of it? Do you ever change it, or you feel like you've really settled on something that like this is what I need to do every day?
There was a lot of exploration the first couple of years to try to get it where I felt like it needed to be, and trying new things, slotting stuff in and out. And I have just like planners full of different things I was doing at different points. But I think the biggest one was what I would describe as the radical acceptance of just knowing that life is always life. Maybe that's the simplest way I will put it. You're always going to be alive. You're always going to be the same person, and every external environment you stack into that is affecting you in the way you want it to. So your perspective and the way that you approach life and the things you decide to do ritualistically, the way you choose to be with people and for what reasons, will sculpt the reality of that day and that moment. So that was the most important incorporation. The actual steps and the actual things help physically with your body and your mind, but that radical acceptance of life being what life is and trying to always keep that in mind and use that in a positive, loving way, I think was the most important incorporation. So
and that's beautiful.
What about you?
Sometimes.
What was that?
I said acceptance is so hard sometimes. Having a daily practice of like strengthening that muscle, I could see how beneficial that is.
I feel that you have the same, maybe a similar set of things that you do. I mean, you're
3 hours. Oh my goodness, I wish I had. That's honestly beautiful that you do, though. I would say it's about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the day. It starts with something that I start every day with, like a physical exertion. I just like to get my heart beating, and I love running. It's also very meditative in nature, the running portion of my day, but then I explicitly sit down and meditate after each run to feel the stillness. And I think it's akin to the concept of radical acceptance, maybe, that you're portraying. But it is in the vein of like just letting everything be. And not trying to manipulate the world in any way, not trying to make a judgment about something, put a label on anything that I see. How can I just observe the world for the way it is, and realize that nothing needs to change? And so I think we're along the same lines. Maybe I just say different words to myself when I do it, but there's a certain peace and grounding in it, and I walk away with like my heart rate like 30 beats per minute lower, and just like
Wow.
really, it's a really nice tranquil experience. And then I'll journal and like kind of reflect on anything that has come to mind over that 30 or 40 minutes.
That's amazing. I love that you can get your heart rate down so low to be in your 20s again.
I know.
No, that's beautiful though. I think anything that you can do to refocus and to be calm and to steady your mind and bring it out of the state, because it is a mental struggle the whole time. Like, well, maybe I shouldn't say struggle, but it is like when from the moment you wake up and that cortisol hit comes and you've like got those stress levels, you can either exacerbate them and start checking your phone and like looking at news articles, or you can choose to just be present and chill a bit and like take some time with yourself and do some physical exertion in a positive way. Like those make every difference. And I still, I'm human. I make both decisions differently at different times of day, and it makes a difference.
It does make a huge difference. I'm very particular about the exact media that I put in front of me at the very beginning of my day. So it's like checking emails, doing stuff like that. I think you can get very easily caught up into it. I would say for me, I do listen to media and consume it in the first hour of my day on occasion, but it's always going to be something akin to like a mindfulness podcast or app or something along those lines. Something that's very intentional.
Nice.
Anyway, I think that's actually a pretty good segue into what we're trying to do right now, which is create our very first podcast episode. And I'm really excited to do that with you. And I'm, very eager to see what comes out of this conversation. I think just to like lay the groundworks, like let's talk a little bit about who we are, what we're trying to do here, why we're talking in the first place. Who are you, Jordan Draper?
I guess I'll start.
Okay.
I'm a human. I'm a global citizen is how I like to introduce myself. I was nomadic for the last 12 or so years. I've lived in a handful of countries and traveled quite a bit. I had some nice experiences in different places, and I speak Japanese. I've lived in Tokyo for almost 4 years and different places in Europe, and I have lots of friends everywhere, and I don't feel any personal maybe objectification of who I am or identity for who I am outside of a geographical context. I'm a human. And so that's what I'd like to say first of all. Just that's how I feel is the best way for me to describe myself. Beyond that, I'm a designer and architect, musician, etc. I've done a lot of different explorations. I love having different hobbies and doing different things. And most of all, I feel that I'm someone who is constantly trying to learn and grow and love all of this together with other people. And I'm just figuring out how to be alive and do all of that. That's pretty much my my straightforward answer.
Yeah. I love that.
Who are you, Gregory?
Great question. Before I jump in there, I do want to say that I love the freshness you bring to my life, because we haven't known each other long, but I appreciate how unbound you are by your geographical location, and the fact that you don't put so many walls up around the person that you are. It's like you know yourself at your core, but you're so excited to become somebody new in a certain way, right? You're eager to expand and grow, and I really find that motivating.
Thank you.
So
nice to hear.
Regarding me, I guess I'm a human too, and I would like to think, if I think a bit deeper about what that's supposed to mean, I think I am love and just awareness in a certain sense. I'm just a being that is trying to live the most fulfilling life possible. And I think that means a lot of different things. I guess my pursuits so far have been around working in the startup world and trying to create innovative products to make the world a better place, quote unquote. Whatever that means. I think that's very subjective at points, and a lot of my frames of mind have changed from that side of things. But I've also explored a lot from the arts side, creating a lot of poetry. I guess I would label myself as a poet when I am actively writing poems. I get a little caught up on labeling myself by the things that I've done, because I'm not like, I also love running, for example. I do it every morning, but I'm only a runner when I'm running. Otherwise, I'm just me. I'm just a
You
human.
can confirm you're a poet, though, because I've read your poetry and it's good.
Thank you. Also validated. But yeah, so I would say from an artistic perspective there, I would say I'm a bit of a traveler. So far, it's been pretty slow in my life, and I haven't went as far as you have. And I'm very interested to talk more about your travels in future conversations, because I'm sure there's so many insights that you can share from it. But for me, I've traveled and lived in a few different cities across the US and have spent, a few years in each. And so I've really had time to like settle into different cultural differences and meet, interesting people, landscapes, so on. But I'm very excited to maybe speed that up a little bit in the coming years and also broaden it and start to go a bit global. So wanderer, traveler, artist, human, lover. Yeah.
Great. I love that. I feel sometimes when you connect with someone on a lot of similar levels, you feel like you're almost the same person in an unexplainable way. And I have that same connection with you. Like I see not only a younger version of myself, but also an older, more wiser version of myself in you at the same time. And I feel that that's a really great like insight into a friend. So
Yeah.
appreciate you.
That's a very beautiful thought. Thank you for saying that. I would say likewise. Yeah. I'm like, I hope I have some of these characteristics and I've done some of the things that you've been able to do by the time I'm your age. I'm really excited. So where do we want to go from there? I think we have a little bit of an understanding from our background. Obviously, we try to go a bit deeper there and talk about who we are at our core. But how does that translate into Lifeform, and what is Lifeform? What's that story of like, how did we get to where we are today? And I don't know exactly what makes the most sense to start. Maybe it's the mission. Maybe it's just talking about more of our entrepreneurial spirits. What do you think?
I think maybe we can speed run through how we got into doing what we're doing, but then talk about why we're doing it a little more in depth. That's what I would think would be a good way to do it.
Okay.
I would say the reason why we got into it in the first place is because we met at a meditation hike and we connected very deeply on a long walk after. We started going running together. I almost died because I almost got bit by a baby rattlesnake. We had that, that connection of near death. And then Gregory has a beautiful near death story, which we'll hear at some point on another episode, which I can't wait to get into. And then we realized that we both want the same thing, which from what I would say is like to spread love, empowerment, exploration, curiosity, creativity, fun, like all of these things that make life worth living, that we both feel are worth going for, worth spending all of your time for without getting paid. And like, because the reward is worth it from a personal level as well as from a societal level, from a human level. I think that's why we're doing this. I mean, you can tell me if you have anything to add or feel anything's different, but that's why we decided to start doing a project together. What would you say?
I agree. I think it's so interesting that we met through a meditation hike. Of course, that's where we met.
Yeah.
In a certain way, I knew I was going to find people that were like-minded, and I'm glad that it ended up coming to fruition, and we did end up having a beautiful conversation that ultimately led into what is here today. I think you did a pretty good summary. You did almost die a second time when you fell when we were on a run. And
I was supposed to share that part. That was a secret.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I have a scar. I can't hide it now. It's great. I'm glad I went.
It makes you stronger. So we're all better for it. I would say, I think where I'm coming from is, like you kind of alluded to, is I had a near-death experience. We'll go down that rabbit hole a different day. But I think the main takeaway from that was that I was given an opportunity to see the world from a different perspective than I had previously. And I had a lot of personal growth through that period of time, and the way I see the world and my values, how I approach day to day. And I feel like I'm a much better person living a much happier life on the other side of all of those changes.
Mhm.
And I want to cultivate a lot of those things, whether it's wisdom, values, whatever it might be. I think I have a unique perspective that I want to be able to share the benefits of to other people without them having to go through something so similar. Um, so how do I make the world a more loving place? I would say the biggest things that came from my experience was understanding the importance of health. Um, and then how I'm actually spending my time. Is it like worrying about things that I can't control? Is it worrying about things that are in the past or the future? Am I actually enjoying what I'm eating right now or the people I'm spending time with? How do I
Mhm.
become more present in my life? Because it doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're going on a vacation, if you're working at a job you love, um, if you're not actually present for those things, what does any of it matter? Like these types of realizations have come to me, and so I've just been on a pursuit of like, how do I help other people start to cultivate, more health, more presence in their lives, and ultimately more fulfillment in the experience that they have being a human.
I love that. I can also say that I spent many years in my younger life not being present, just thinking about how to get some goal achieved or how to get to the next goalpost and just completely being outside of what was happening while I was where I was, who I was with. And yeah, as soon as I look back at it, it feels like time wasted, to be honest, presence wasted. And not, it didn't happen all the time, but you once you see that it was there, it's a big difference. And so we came up with an idea together that feels that it can empower presence, and that's part of
Yeah,
the big mission that we're on, right?
yeah, I think it's a good lever. So like we're trying to make this change in the world. How do we go about doing that? How do we help people live more fulfilling, full and present lives? And I think there's a few other criteria. Maybe you want to list those too. But ultimately, we decided, hey, we're on the same path at a certain level. We want to be working towards the same things. We're finding fulfillment in helping people achieve X, Y, and Z, and we want to come together to start a company that will help do those things. We did have a handful of criteria points that we wanted to make sure that we didn't compromise on any of these types of things. And so I don't know if we want to go through those. If we do, we can like kind of list those out. One of those is increasing presence for the user. But there's quite a few more. Do you want to list them off?
Yeah, I think it's worth at least bringing up just for food for thought, in case
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
cares. Some of these you brought up, some of these I brought up. We kind of met and decided what ones were the most important for the entire mission of what we're making. So the first one is to not contain any synthetic material, something very near and dear to my heart as a designer, and having made many products, over 100,000 products in the past.
It's a big number.
It feels like a burden. I've known that even though I made most of them out of natural materials, I did incorporate some plastic into some things, and I just wish that that didn't have to be the case. And I have made progress toward that, but it is something that every designer should think about and be aware of and take responsibility for, even if you're working for a company. And
Wine.
that's a hot take. I think a lot of people, a lot of other designers I know don't agree with that, but I think it's ultimately up to the designer who's making the decision. So that's step
Good
one.
points. But I just want to pause real quick. Why
Yeah.
is that so important? Like, I think there's some obvious answers here, but is there anything that's a little bit less obvious?
I think the most, I guess, overlooked aspect of it is that there is a lifespan to every product, and it starts from the base core fundamental material that's taken out of the earth, but that also affects the environment that it's taken from. It also affects the people that are working to take it and the people that are inadvertently not part of that process, that have the byproduct of the process of taking that raw material. that's just a simple first step, and there's so many extra steps that happen along the way. And then after you get it as a consumer, which probably means that if you have products, period, you're more of a privileged human being on the earth than the majority of people on the earth who don't have a lot of these means to get these products that we have and we take for granted. Just forget all that. When you throw it away or you use it in a different way, it breaks or something happens, like the end life cycle of that product is a ultimately massive step, and you can affect life in the oceans or on land or in so many different ways with chemical byproducts, other human beings. I mean, microplastics in our bodies. We should do a whole episode on this for sure.
Yeah, we really should.
But yeah, that entire lifespan, you just completely skip the first part because it's so hard to understand it. It's impossible to research, basically, is what I've concluded from doing a lot of research on it. But then the second half of what happens to your product after that also is almost impossible to research because you can't really know. Even if it goes into a landfill, like you can't be sure of what's happening after you put it in your trash can and it gets picked up. Like there's so many.
Yeah, traceability. There's like there's a veil there. So just like making sure that we're sourcing proper materials. How do we control that process and not make any shortcuts for the sake of the environment and the health of everybody? I think is like the main gist. Which kind of leads into the step or I guess like requirement 2, which is being 100% sustainable. So if you want to chat a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I want to quickly touch on synthetic as well. Like, not every synthetic material is innately evil or like going to be harmful to the environment. I'm not saying that. There's obviously examples where something being synthetic and not coming from the earth is possible in a sustainable and functional way that doesn't hurt people. But to be safe and to be sure, I think you grow it from the earth. That's my hot take. That's my designer take. So
I love that hot take.
To be 100% sustainable, there's a philosophy that maybe that's not possible, but I think it is. I think if you have an ecosystem that doesn't ultimately downtrend away from its current stasis, then it's sustainable, is how I would describe it. So if you're going to source a material from a forest or from fungi or from wherever, like you don't want to interrupt that natural environment. That would be a big part of the sustainability. And then beyond that, it's the product lifestyle that we touched on a second ago. Like, is it to keep a net neutral or negative impact in a different way?
Certainly we're striving for 100% sustainability, even if it's not completely there. Like having that as the benchmark, I think is important.
Yeah, erring on the side of caution. Metabolist / does it support functional modalities? So the word metabolists I took from architecture. Metabolist architecture, a big movement in the 60s and 70s in Japan and spread other places. The best example of this would be the Nakajin capsule tower, which no longer exists in Tokyo. But if you haven't learned about it, go on the Wikipedia pages. It was an amazing project. Basically, it was a central tower with a bunch of living capsules that attach on the outside, and they were to be replaced and updated every 10 years. And so you would own like a spot to slot in a capsule, which I loved. And you'd own the original capsule, but like you could have made your own. You can take the inside and do whatever you want with it. I think that's a beautiful thing because the whole idea of the building is that it adapts to the person living in it. It adapts to the community that lives in it because there was a lot of shared facilities and HOA things and whatever, and everything was just made to fit together and be used in a way that you needed it to. And so metabolist means it's adaptable.
It's a living structure.
Yes, it's a living structure that also can change drastically depending on the needs. And we don't have that in architecture across the globe. I mean, it just doesn't exist. The closest thing is probably, ironically, communist architecture was just like these brutalist concrete buildings that were just bare inside. You put in your own flooring, you put in your own walls, you put in everything that you wanted. Was like blank slate, you do what you want. And I have a friend in Lithuania, and I've got to visit her parents' apartment in this very traditional communist building, and it was amazing. They put like these tweed rod like walls, so it's like this living, almost grass feeling wall, but it doesn't have a 70s vibe. It felt great. Like all the flooring was unique, every piece of furniture in there fit in how they wanted it, and I feel that was pretty close to Metabolist, even though it was in the the opposite context of how you'd expect.
Yes, maybe not so intentional from the perspective that we're trying to like approach it, but that's super interesting. I didn't even know that existed. I really don't. I'm going to check out some pictures of that, maybe even see that in person. That seems really interesting to see. Okay.
Yeah, you'll see some in Europe. There's a lot of communist architecture, but in general, we wanted to make a product that could adapt to any user, that could adapt to different use cases, that could be used in ways you don't expect. That's honestly what makes something modular, in my opinion, and it's pretty positive shared one, that a closed system can't be truly modular or metabolist because it only exists within its own components, and it's too hard to incorporate other needs and other components without them being manufactured and made by a central source. So if it's actually going to be metabolist, other people may be able to implement things they need that we don't make.
Great summation. I love it. All right. Let's move to the next one. I'll take this one if that's fine.
Yeah, of course.
So decreasing the friction to living a healthy life. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. How can we create a product that makes it easier to do the healthier thing, to be healthier? And that can mean a lot of things. It's a pretty broad umbrella concept. But generally speaking, we're talking about well-being, longevity, these types of concepts. And so when you look at the world around you, and it kind of pays homage to like the concept of like toxic synthetic materials and things not being sustainable, like these things microplastics, these can get into your drinking water, those types of things, which impact health. Obviously, he made me read a whole book about this, which was very insightful, by the way.
I'm glad that was outtake.
But speaking from personal experience too, like the world around you isn't, there's plastic everywhere. There's different chemicals and foods and different products and materials that really aren't great for you at all. And it's very, very hard to make the healthier choice. And at least in the US, it's more expensive to eat healthier, to eat the organic foods, and so forth. And so how can we create a product instead of making it so hard? How can we decrease this friction to make it easier to be healthy? Because I think ultimately people want to live longer. They want to live happier. They want to feel better, but their wallet can't, support that because it's way too expensive to eat really healthy food, or maybe they live in a desert and they can't access like proper grocery stores and stuff like that. And so that's just one analogy here, but I think there's a lot in the world that just makes it harder rather than easier. So how do we correct that flow?
Love it. In case anybody was wondering, the book's called Fatal Conveniences by Darren Oling, and
yes,
I just don't like on podcasts when people don't talk.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, and we'll link that too if people are interested.
Yeah. Great summation. I think that's really on point. I wish there were less friction points for a lot of things that are causing problems in life because of health concerns, and there's not a lot of awareness for it, which makes you look like the crazy person when you bring it up to something.
I don't mind it. Anyway,
do you want to take the next one too?
Yeah, I guess I'll take this one because it's very in same vein. So just making sure that we're super intentional about creating something that positively impacts people's mental and or physical health, ideally both. So one, we need to be able to decrease the barrier to entry into like making it easier to live healthy. But how do we be intentional about creating something that's at the root of health? I would say you put it into two broader buckets, is mental and physical. We have we could go deeper there, but I think these are in a symbiotic relationship. You can't have one without the other, largely speaking. And so how can we create a product that at the end of the day can help people feel great physically in their bodies? And
can I just share a quick insight for you? Because I think you have something we'll learn more about Gregory is that he has a very in-tune connection to his organs and his actual body, and I think mental health as well. It seems that your personal life incorporates a lot of appreciation for what your body does for you, but also like a physical feeling and connection to those things. And I think that is a super important point to bring up, something that I look to for guidance from you when I forget these things, because I don't always talk to my organs like you do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of where I was leaning. It's how do you create more awareness around the physical body? And this is somewhat from like more of a spiritual context, but this is like your one and only vessel to continue the experience that we call life. And it's important that to me that we respect it and we nurture it and we water it in every way that we can, because without physical health you have nothing at a certain rate. Without your physical health you will die,
Mhm.
and then it's over, and then you can't continue to experience the love and joy that life can bring and experience it with other people. And so how we had to make that a clear point to create a product that's going to help people be a bit more mindful about their physical body and their health to keep that, up to par, I think, to help people live longer and so forth. But then the other side of it is mental health, right? If you're completely healthy physically, you can still have a really unhealthy life, and still deal with a lot of things. And that's obviously a big umbrella too. But I think, at least from the lens that we are thinking about it, is um, thinking through how can we create a product that makes people live more intentional, mindful lives and can help people deal with some of the negative emotions through stress and anxiety and those types of things. How can we create a product that is going to help remedy some of those less desirable emotions, and create more positive ones and enjoyable, delightful experiences? So I think those are the two primary things. Is there anything else you want to add to mental or physical?
Seems pretty good. I think you got it.
Cool. Communal, go for it.
Yeah. Communal health. We want to increase communal health and we want to foster it and offer options to help people who can't get that help. And maybe that's through resources, and maybe that's through physical space, and maybe that's through a shared time with a physical space or some kind of need from a local community gathering. However that's going to play out, we're trying to create a space that offers help to people who need it. But also, I've just found how hard it is to own land and a physical structure. And I wanted to have that for a long time, but I realized that there needs to be a better solution because it's too difficult for too many people, especially with younger generation. And great, a lot of people that I know that have houses, they just got help from their parents, which is what it is. But then if you don't have the right income level, you're still a valid human being and you still are working and helping your community. You deserve to have those same nice privileges and amenities. So what we're trying to create that for people at a reasonable endpoint, and hopefully even for free at some point for people who actually are in proven of needing it, whether that's natural disasters or just having the need for it and not being able to get it. Like, we're trying to cultivate a community that helps people help people, but also just gives people something they wouldn't be able to have otherwise, which is something I think
Yeah.
everybody deserves.
Yeah.
Like human
100%.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. What's it all for if not for spending it with other people? And
Yeah.
you
What's
know
the
what I
point
mean?
of doing anything if you're not going to share it with somebody? I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I think that covers the main ones. Obviously, we talked about presence too. Um, so with that said, I guess if you want to take it, those are all the criteria points, and we came up with a list of different things, and we talked through it over the course of a few weeks to really decide on like what is the product that's going to satisfy all of these criteria, also fulfill each of us on this journey. And so I think we had a handful of really good ideas. We ultimately said no to some of them, and we both landed on this concept. I'll let you take it away, but I think it's such a beautiful product, and I'm so excited to bring it to life with you.
Nice. Likewise. I yeah, I've been designing and thinking about a modular living system for a long time. That I feel that the examples that exist that are more Lego like are too complex and the pieces are too small and they don't adapt very well. And then I was thinking about like homeless people, like what's approachable if you're homeless, and there was some great projects that I was kind of showcasing about like taking steam vents. There's a project called Parasite that takes steam from other buildings as the output and heats these like inflatable structures. There's been a lot of fun projects, but nothing that was practical and brought to market. And so we were exploring ideas. I just kind of brought up as a joke at first that we could make the homeless no more home. Like we can make something that allows homeless people to not be homeless, but also is like a beautiful design, high end, and is metabolist and approachable for anybody to expand and grow into whatever they want as their dream home. And has every use case that we can think of covered and offers the adaptability and the plug-in ability to do what you want with it. And so we took that concept and started running with it as an idea. And the structures that I had been designing in architecture before this were like larger scale, they were heavier, and the components needed to fit together and be moved on truck. They were just a bit more expensive. Everything was like kind of here or there, causing some issue or problem with approachability for affordability and portability. And so we landed on an idea together that could be portable, which I think is important. Like a human being can carry the structure in their arms. And on top of that, we decided that it should be something that increases presence, like we were talking about. And we landed on this modular structure that takes some key points from design work I had been doing, but sculpts it in the light of the mission that we're on. And we talked through and ended up in this great multi-use system where you can buy and expand it with multiple units, but also you can buy extra like accessories and kits that go into it, or you can plug in third-party things to it. But the base system itself as a core can be anything from like a shelf in your house to an outdoor office that you carry to a park, and you just have this beautiful view, and you don't have to work indoors in this cell that we're inside of all the time. You have the beauty of air and everything, but also you can grow it into a small living system, a glamping site, or an actual house, or an additional dwelling unit. Hopefully the sky is endless, but the pieces that fit together and work within this system are going to work in such a way that you can turn it into what you need. And that's the most important thing. And it's also very durable, and it's non-permanent unless you want it to be. And then you can always take it apart and sell it and use whatever pieces you want within the system. So we're creating a presence metabolist modular living / utility system, and I think it's beautiful.
At the foundation, it's like this living building system that's highly adaptable and can take the form of basically anything that I mean, maybe not anything, but I think just about anything that you need from a living perspective, and having a structure out in the world. Maybe that's to live, maybe it's to do commerce out of, maybe it's kind of the world's. And listen, I think we are super open to like hearing and discovering how people end up leveraging the system. I think that's what I'm really excited about, because we're providing these like core foundational components in this system to help people like leverage and follow their curiosity and creativity to create new structures that we couldn't even imagine, together. So I think that's what really excites me. I wouldn't say it's like exactly like Lego, but it's like akin to like a real life Lego, I guess is how you can think about it. To get a bit more practical, and this is obviously subject to change a bit, just because we're doing this so in real time, and we're still working through prototypes and making sure that we're creating the best possible product. But what is the actual experience of holding? What are you actually looking at when it's on the ground or in your hand? And then how does it turn into, like, let's say a clamping site, for example?
Yeah, the thing that I love about what we're making is that it doesn't require everything to be connected and folded out, or to have, it's not like a system in disguise as something that has to unfold and be stuck together. Like, this is truly modular, as in you're getting said number of 120 components that just happen to work and configure in so many different ways that the sky's the limit. That's why we make these overlaps with Lego, because Lego made a very beautiful precision product that can be used in so many different ways, right? But the only thing with Lego that I think are a little bit short on, outside of being a beautiful toy, which I love Legos, by the way.
Made out of plastic, but
well, that too. But I mean, it is what it is. they're not able to incorporate third party objects as well as they could, but it's a toy, so meant for that. As much practicality is a huge thing for us, and so we're making a system where like when you see it as a product, it's a cube that you pick up. It's literally a carryable cube, but that cube unpacks when you get to where you're going into all these components, and you have, if you want, you have this flooring system out of these, and hopefully we'll have it made completely out of aluminum. Maybe we'll have some different materials later, but that's where we're aiming for in the beginning. You have a floor that you set up if you want the floor. If you don't want to use the floor, it splits apart into 8 different shelves that you can put up wherever you want on the walls, which is already is such a cool thing because you can have that presence of grounding and walking on the floor. But if you're like glamping or camping and you don't want to be walking on the floor, you have a beautiful metal floor. And then on top of that, you have these structural poles that go up on the sides, and you can hook into them with different support systems that connect the cube together. And then you can have it comes with a desk as the base level. So you automatically have an outdoor office with set amount of shelving, depending on if you want a floor or not. And then if you want to put 2 of them together, you carry 2 cubes, and you've got it twice as wide, and you've got enough room for a sleeping space or a cot or a sleeping bag or whatever you want. Then you keep adding on more, and we hope to add in a more permanent wall structure, which just adds on in components as well. And those, if you don't want to use them as a wall piece, you use them as a shelf, or you use them as desk slots. So really the point is to make it so that you set it up how you want. But again, it starts as a cube, and then it can be a shelf in your house, the most beautiful like machine shelf you could think of. Then you want to go camping one day, you put it back together into a cube, you take it out, and then you have a glamping site with a kitchen or whatever you want to bring and add into it. And if you want to sell and you set it up, you want to be a mobile barista, you just set up your mobile cafe and you're good to go. If you want to have a porch instead of shelves, right, you put the porch on the outside of that, and you have that in your living structure. And we hope to adapt and add tons of different ideas. Like we brainstorm some beautiful stuff, like a living hydroponics wall to grow food in your house, to utilizing it as like a membrane wall structure, so you can have like some nice skylight and meditative experiences, whatever you want to do. Make a yoga studio, hopefully it could be anything. But the beauty of it is that it's compact and movable, but it's not like a lightweight backpacking thing, but it is going to be durable, structural, and completely adaptable, hopefully.
I think you did a really good job showcasing some of the practical use cases of it. I want to take a different perspective really quickly, just from like the business side of things, because I think what we can like highlight here is one, that it's portable in nature, and why this product is a little bit different than anything that currently exists on the market today. Where is this like unique positioning? And I've thought a lot about this. One, and like you've alluded to, is that a lot of the components of like our current solutions, let's say for like homeless structures, one, are like super costly, and they're not, there's like a lot of different parts. It's not necessarily modular in nature. It's not built in from that intentionality perspective. So it's not quite as scalable either. And so there's some of those aspects to it. When you look at, if we want to talk a little bit about portable living, and you start looking at tents, obviously that's, a certain part of the market that's hyper rapid, like moving location to location in a very cheap manner, but it's not very structurally sound. It's not very comfortable. A lot of times it's not necessarily made out of the best materials. And so there's a lot of sacrifices there. On the other end of the spectrum, you have like full on, tiny homes, I guess is would be the most comparison, but those are very complex living situations. And sure, they can be like super luxury and very nice, but they're not going to be as portable. They're going to be far more expensive. And I think what we're trying to build is something that's kind of like this Goldilocks zone where, and this is again in the use case of using it as a house, and there's many other use cases. At the end of the day, it's like a building living system. But I think this just kind of goes to show some of the uniqueness of what we're building is because we're really leaning into how do we create something that is structurally sound that is great for the earth, that's still portable and cost effective enough where it can be given to the masses in a certain way and like can reach people that might not be otherwise be able to have some type of like living structure. Or on the other end, how do you have something that is going to allow you to explore the world a little bit differently and have something that's going to conform to your changing needs in different places from place to place and so forth. And so having that adaptability is like the other key component. So if you were to live in these, as over time, like people right now will buy a house and then it's like the starter home, right? that concept of starter home. And then you get bigger house and then so forth. And it grows because you need more rooms because it's not so easy to tack on other rooms. Whereas with something like this, if you want it to be a more permanent structure, at the end of the day, you can do that and then just very quickly start to add on other rooms because of its modular nature. And so those are, I would say, like 3 big ones, like adaptability, portability, and cost effectiveness.
Yeah. Thanks for expanding on that. I think that was very well said. And another key component to this, which maybe a lot of people don't think about too much, is that land is always going to be an issue when you're trying to set up more of a permanent thing. And so hopefully we can both encourage people to have additional dwelling units or more subdivisions or different things. Like in Japan, it's a big movement to have small homes and subdivisions because it just makes more sense for how many people are there. But hopefully we can solve the land problem as well and like rent out land with nothing on it that people can build in their modular structures onto. And maybe we have like a communal central area. These are things I'm thinking about all the time deeply because that's a big barrier to entry. We want to remove as many barrier to entry as possible for people to have a living space. And another way to maybe think about the product, which one of my mentors kind of beautifully coined as a concept, is that we are creating architecture as a product. And you can think about it that way. It's like we're creating something that feels handleable, that feels usable, that feels like you can control what you want to do with it. You can help it to empower your vision and your creativity. Whereas normal architecture, residential architecture, like you hire an architect or you get an ivory home or you get these like pre-made construction plans and it's materials permanently put together and you have no say. Really, like, yeah, you can help influence. If you work with an architect, that's great. I think there's beautiful homes that exist and examples that are wonderful. I'm not trying to like downgrade residential architecture in general, but I think a lot of people that are living in those homes didn't really have as much input as they could have or should have. And if you want to empower yourself through your environment, you need to have a say and you need to have that exploration. That's something that's definitely missing. Like, there's no way to explore the space you're going to be living in before it's built if you're not designing it as the architect. The best the architect can do is talk to the client and see what they like. But with this system, you experiment, you reset it up, you remake it how you want all the time, and that's the beauty.
It's so fluid and easy, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It's really a beautiful product. That so I'm very impressed with where we've come so far, and I'm excited to like see this thing in the real world in action. I can't wait till we have like our first physical prototype going.
Yeah, but I want to use it just as bad as anybody else. I want to go live in it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm so eager, especially because I want to start traveling more. So I think that kind of wraps up what we're working on and building from a product perspective. Is there anything else you want to add before we move forward? Just don't want to, skip over anything that's important, but I think that about covers it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I would like to just reach a line out to anybody who's interested in similar concepts, working on something similar, interested in anything we talked about. Like, we'd love to have conversation at whatever stage we're at, even though we don't have anything like specifically to show when we're recording this currently. It would be amazing to talk to people and start spreading ideas and awareness of similar ideas. That's part of the community element. We want to interact with people and have people help the design process and the growth of our company as well. So
yes. And I'm curious to hear like other people's ideas from a creation perspective. How do you see yourself leveraging a utility like this type of system? Is there other concepts that we're not thinking about? Just understanding what excites you about a product like this would be really interesting to hear. So
definitely.
That's from my end. Okay. So I know we're getting close to time. So I just really wanted to talk about this podcast. Obviously, this is our first episode, and I'm glad that we're kicking this off. I think there's going to be a lot more to come, a lot of more insightful, beautiful conversations to be had around Lifeform as a product, the mission that we're trying to solve, but also more things that are a bit more like philosophical in nature, how we each approach our lives, the different practices that we have, thoughts on presence, creativity, curiosity. If we're reading a book, kind of coming together, reflecting on like this really profound book that we read. Who knows what this podcast is going to turn into? But I'm very excited to like continue on this journey. It's going to be us sometimes. Maybe we'll bring on some guests. We'll see what this turns into, like I said. But yeah, I think that's basically it from the podcast perspective. I know we're going to be doing a lot more content outside of just doing podcasts, creating videos, doing short form content on platforms like TikTok and YouTube, and all of these things is great. But like, can you speak to like the why behind this? Like, what's the main objective here?
I guess we'll each have a slightly different answer, I hope. But I think my answer would be I'm exploring for myself. I've been wanting to bring this concept to life for a long time, and I think I know I needed somebody on the other side to handle a lot of the back end work and a lot of the business aspects, the logistics, in addition to helping like with the concept and the idea progression. So you were the missing piece that I needed to really bring this fully to life, because I've been planning it and working on it for years, but I never have been able to take the right steps toward it. So everything aligned and it seemed perfect. So this personal exploration for me has been going for a long time, but I'm like so excited to dive in incredibly practically and start making it outside of like renderings and blueprints that I've done in the past. Now that we're like moving into this new sector and we're making a new product that is everything I've wanted to do, but like exemplified in a great way, and you've made this puzzle work together. It just is amazing to be working on presence and life and love and community at the same time. Those were the extra missing elements, right? So
Yeah,
I want to explore that. I want to explore the product that I'm doing, but really I want to help and love people and spread love and awareness and happiness. Let's like spread positivity, because I'm like creativity and positivity are what I'm all about. And I wish everybody could be creative every day and we could all be giggling and having fun and taking things less seriously and like just making something that inspires us, that is so powerful. So that's why I'm doing it. It's all those pieces together. So thanks again for making that work from your side, fitting into that missing puzzle. But that's where I'm at.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think I am in a pretty similar boat in terms of wanting to share love, joy, presence, mindfulness, overall just an appreciation and enjoyment of life and experience, in helping people do it more often and with more people, and everybody just living more in a creative flow type of way. Is just a beautiful concept to me. I think that's where people feel most alive and most human. And I guess that would be the ultimate pursuit, is like, how do I ensure that, one, I'm not wasting my life? How am I living my life to the fullest? When you go through like a near-death experience, you start to reflect on like, what if I am going to die right now? Have I done everything that I want to do? How are people going to remember me? Like, how did I waste my time? Did I leverage it and do the things that really brought me alive? Did I live life for me, or did I live life for other people? And what does that even mean? Like, and I started to really question and think critically about what the life I want to lead, how I want each day to be, and started to create those priorities and different values. And along those lines is like, how do I help more people? Like, how do I empower people to, one, think a bit more critically about what they're doing each day and how they're spending their time, but also empower them to lean in to who they truly are in their at their essence, at their core, without other people trying to define them, without society trying to define them in the different structures that we have in place today. Like, what is that true inner life that needs to take shape and take form in the world? And if I move the needle even a little bit before I die to help generally speaking, the world population, like just lean a little bit further in this direction of living authentic lives, purposeful lives, present lives that are filled with joy, then I will feel fulfilled at the end of my life. So I think this product is exactly what I was looking for. It's funny because I have an entrepreneurial bug. I want to make the world a better place.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, if I don't, I am enough. I love myself and I love just existing and living. But to be able to make the world a more beautiful place for other people is just like the icing on top. And I hope to do that over the course of my life to have a truly life well lived. And so I've had an entrepreneurial bug for a little while, but I hadn't quite nailed down the product side, but I also just really love the business side of things and the strategy behind it from a finance perspective to the tools that we use, the operations, systems, processes, logistics, whatever it is. Like, I just love tinkering and building systems that produce something. But I was really lacking some of the technical expertise when it came to like creating a product that is going to solve something. I dabbled in a few different spaces, and I think I could have ultimately turned those into something, but being able to partner with somebody that has extensive experience in manufacturing, creating physical products and goods, has extensive architectural and design background as well, that's going to be able to create a beautiful product. Obviously, been thinking about this a long time, so you put in a lot of the groundwork there to be able to just plug into your passion for the product that meets a lot of the same goals that I have, and to be able to then focus on building the engine that helps put it into the world. That's what lights me up. So I think, again, very perfect marriage for my side as well.
Cool. We're on the same page. We have we have great higher values and purpose and ideas for that we're trying to fulfill, and we will fulfill, which is really at the end of the day what it's all about. Everything else is a fun exploration within that will help encompass what we're doing. So we're very excited to move forward, and we're very excited to talk to whoever you are. Hopefully we'll talk to you, person listening, because we'd love to hear your input and ideas.
Definitely. Okay. I think that about wraps it up. Anything else? Anything else? I'm trying to decide if we should end this in a certain way, more something that's a bit more ritualistic.
Yeah. I have a ritual, which I think we should do. Rituals are important. We should have a ritual.
I agree.
I think we should give a takeaway, not from the podcast episode, maybe more, I should say, like a present moment takeaway, maybe something we want people to think about, something that they could do, a profound thought, a line from a poem, a short poem, an idea, or something that is thought-provoking, whatever it is.
Ooh, I have a question that might be thought-provoking.
Okay, ask the question.
So we're recording this at on October 30th, 2023, which is just in time for Halloween. So I'm going to go down this thread, if that's okay. I think you know where I'm going. Okay. Just a simple question, like, what would be your ideal superpower? I think that kind of fits right in line with the theme of Halloween. If a lot of people are dressing up as superheroes, I'm personally going to be Spider-Man. And my sister asked me that question recently, and it was something I haven't thought about in a really long time. And I guess I'm just going to pose that question to people to think a little bit more critically about what that superpower would actually be and why. Because I feel like there's a lot of insights there. So I guess, I don't know. Was that like a decent enough takeaway, or is that...
Whatever you want to say, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
That's good.
I think I'm very interested in hearing that. I guess, should I share I think my favorite my superpower would be?
You have to know. Yeah.
Okay. I think it used to be like flying or invisibility or being able to read people's minds and these concepts, but I really stepped back and thought about what would really make the most meaningful impact for me in my life from a practical perspective. And that, for me, would be able to turn ego off at will instantly for the longest duration that I want. So I can truly just be present and not have to, I can truly be at peace and at rest and not have the concept of I, and just like feel 100% connected to everything around me. I feel like that's ultimately what the pinnacle of like existing is in certain lights, and being able to do that at will, because it's so hard. The human brain just never shuts up. Being able to do that would be so beautiful, in my opinion.
I'll turn in your application to several monasteries. You'll be hearing back from me. That's good. I like it. I guess it's Halloween, so I would say, go forth and be ghouly. That's what I would say. Let's end it there.